I know that a lot of people hate this movie. And back then, I didn't really understand why. When I first reviewed this movie on Cynical Sane 77, back when I was first starting out that channel, I more made that review to try and combat the suffocating negativity of the movie all around the internet. Hell, even today, I am still one of those people that gave it a positive review. The only one on the internet, probably, to do that. But since now everything has changed with Marvel, and they've ditched everything having to do with Kang the Conqueror, and instead bringing in Doctor Doom, I thought it was necessary to go back to QuantuMania, give it a full reevaluation, and see if it really is a movie that can stand on its own 2 feet, even without the whole Kang thing ultimately mattering in the end. And strangely enough, the answer is both yes and no. I can see most of the problems with this movie now that most could see when it first came out, but I still can't bring myself to call it bad or even hate it. Like, sure, it is not good. I'm just gonna say that right now. I was wrong in that first review. This movie's not good. However, I'm not gonna call this movie bad because I think it still has just enough to make it watchable. Not anything worth remembering, but watchable. Perfectly adamant. So, I may or may not make some enemies with this review. I may or may not make some friends with this review. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care. I just want to get this review done so I never have to talk about this movie again. Because even though I don't hate it, it's a movie that I just don't really want to talk about very much. So, what's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station. Welcome back to Marvelous May. Welcome to my re-review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: QuantuMania. I went pretty deep into this with this written review, and I tried my best to acknowledge everything that I got wrong. So, yep, it may not be a negative review per se, but it's not going to be a very positive one either. It's one of those that kind of falls in the middle. I'll do my best to explain. So without further ado, here is my full re-review of QuantuMania. Let's begin. I know that I reviewed this one back when it first came out. Hell, I was one of the only people on the internet back then to give it a positive review. So, now that everything having to do with Kang is getting completely scrapped, because, kicking out Jonathan Majors and all that, I thought it'd be best to give it a reevaluation and see if, even without that, if it could stand out on its own as a threequel to Ant-Man. And strangely, the answer is both yes and no. Ant-Man and the Wasp 2, aka Ant-Man 3, QuantuMania, is a heavily flawed but perfectly watchable installment in the MCU, and far from the worst. Rudd is still great as Ant-Man. Paul Rudd, he's still great as Scott Lang. He's still as great as he's always been. The action is solid. It's not amazing by any means, but it's solid. It's okay. The Quantum Realm is a really cool setting full of some fascinating visuals. This is the best part of the movie. I love that they actually made an entire movie inside the Quantum Realm. After taking little brief trips through it in the first Ant-Man and Avengers Endgame, now getting to actually spend a whole movie in this setting is really cool. And I think they did a great job at fleshing it out and expanding this very tiny, minuscule world that lives inside the fibers of reality. It's pretty interesting. And I think it is by far the best part of the movie is its setting. Because it's unpredictable, it is all kinds of bonkers, and just like those really cool Mysterio vision things from Spider-Man Far From Home, it is the definition of a mind screw. The cinematography is okay. There's some nice moments of some really cool colors or some really nice shots or lighting, but it's not anything super great. Jonathan Majors, in one of his last performances as a variant of Kang, let me make that clear, this is a variant of Kang. If you watched Loki, you would understand that. But for those that don't, and we're just getting introduced to Kang through this movie, this is a variant of Kang. This is not Kang Prime. He was killed by Sif in the Season 1 finale of Loki. So what we're dealing with here, and in Loki Season 2 for that matter, is a bunch of variants. Following the events of Loki Season 1 before getting booted off was still surprisingly compelling. Majors still tried. Like, he didn't have a whole lot to work with because this movie's writing's kind of lousy, but he tried. And you could tell in this movie that he really did try to make Kang into a very complex and interesting villain. But again, there's the problem, the fact that this version of Kang is a variant and not Kang Prime. So you don't have that same compelling investment that you had with Kang Prime at the end of Loki Season 1. And Scott's relationship with his daughter Cassie is still as strong as it's ever been. Their relationship is still as great as it's always been in these movies. It's still a strong father-daughter relationship, and seeing the two of them interact and help each other, genuinely great. Really love that. And it's still as strong of a relationship as it has ever been in the MCU. However, MODOK is still fucking atrocious. I hate what they did with MODOK. I hate that they brought back what the fuck was the dude's name? Yellow Jacket. That they brought back Yellow Jacket just to do this CGI abomination that belongs in the deepest, darkest pits of hell. Seriously, I hate MODOK. I hate everything that they did with MODOK in this movie, and it would be better if they just left him out entirely. And that CGI, terrible. In fact, the CGI throughout this entire movie is terrible. Because while I love the whole idea of having the setting of the quantum realm in this movie, the effects are still really bad and in some cases just show outright budget cuts. Yeah, the CGI in this movie is still terrible. The final battle sucks. I refuse to believe that any version of Kang can be defeated by freaking Ant-Man of all things. Rewatchability is non-existent. After this review, I'm never touching this again. And because of Kang getting scrapped because of real-life bullshit, the plot and story feels completely pointless. It's the same problem I had with the Season 1 finale of Loki. That being that because Kang is getting scrapped, everything that has to do with Kang in these past projects now is pretty much a complete and total waste of time. Because since they are ditching and scrapping everything having to do with that, now it just all feels like it is building up to absolutely nothing. And it fucking sucks big time. Overall though, while I don't hate this movie like most do, I'm not going to try to defend it either. And I fully admit that my original positive review of it back then may have been a little bit from an overreaction to try to combat the backlash rather than actually being honest. It's average, and by no means painful to sit through, aside from MODOK. Again, rotten hell. That whole fucking thing, rotten hell. But this does feel like a pointless detour and a beyond egregious cash grab by corporate to try and keep things moving. It's worth a watch out of curiosity if you haven't seen it yet, but nothing worth remembering, except for MODOK, who will haunt your nightmares, and a very discouraging start to Phase 5 of the MCU. Yeah, it's a bummer. This is how Phase 5 starts, and it's not very encouraging. And this is when the MCU burnout of Phase 4 really started to take a stranglehold on future projects. At least if the box office of Thunderbolts is anything to go by. Final verdict for Ant-Man and the Wasp: QuantuMania now is a 5 out of 10. It's not good, it's not bad, it's average. One and done at best, but full of problems, and again, everything having to do with MODOK should have been left on the cutting room floor. Well, that's it. See you next time for Loki Season 2.